Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be doing a twin flame energy check-in reading. There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is this heart. Group 2 is this heart. And group 3 is this heart. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. Chose this heart. So let's start by taking a look at what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the state of the connection right now. Okay, so we have second ray of wisdom, hold your center, and past life activation. So this feels like something that they are reflecting on a previous encounter with you, a previous experience with you, seeing that from a different perspective, almost kind of wishing that they could turn back the hands of time and maybe take some words back that had been said, perhaps impulsively. They might have been very overwhelmed about their feelings for you and kind of pushed you away instead of expressing that overwhelm and kind of asking for some space in a more gentle sort of fashion. This can also relate to just any kind of an argument or not seeing things eye to eye in the past that has created obvious blocks or even just awkwardness and distance between the two of you that it feels like is weighing heavily on their mind at this particular point in time. Something has sort of shifted within them, the space where the sunniness of your presence once occupied a very significant role in their life. It's feeling very vacant. There's a huge echo within kind of their heart, within their life at this particular point in time. And so it feels like there's an urge to try and present some sort of olive branch, some sort of, peace offering, but kind of where to start, what to say, what to do moving forward in order to course correct what's happened and to try to avoid or prevent sort of a repeat of the past occurring. There may also be something where they're able to kind of trace something that has occurred here with like circumstances of wounding from past relationships, almost somebody who could be kind of a master of self-sabotage or just expected that the worst would happen. And so when some turbulence occurred within your connection or they became very overwhelmed with their feelings, it's almost like they cut and run or created some sort of distance between the two of you, almost in anticipation of sort of like, well, usually this is the time that sort of signals the beginning of the end in connection, so I might as well sort of get ahead of the curve and help the situation along to a place of distance. And so it feels like they've kind of checked themselves in this capacity. They're seeing that they've overreacted or something that was kind of done or said, or even just kind of an internal shift where they've kind of closed off inside of themselves. If you're still in contact with this person, it could just feel very distant. They might be making up excuses, or it could be kind of difficult to have regular communication with them, or if you're having communication, you could just sort of sense some distance, like a divide between the two of you, that they are now able to recognize this is kind of what I do when I feel pressured. This is what I do when I feel overwhelmed. This is what happened in the last connection or other connections that I've had in the past that has been a singular event that it feels like they're taking some degree of responsibility for, that definitely contributes on their end of the equation to kind of difficulty as far as communications are concerned. So it feels like they are aware of some aspect of their contribution to like a problem, or just kind of disharmony between the two of you, and it feels like they're strategizing some sort of way forward. They've got their attention sort of fixed upon that, so it's not like there's a distance, and even if they're trying to distract themselves with other things, there's a lot of internal focus, a lot of internal dialogue, a lot of quiet time sort of spent puzzling over this and sort of figuring out what to do to kind of change the circumstances, and also really obviously seeing this as an opportunity, like a pattern has been identified within them of sort of like, I remember the results the last time I sort of let myself continue to walk down this path in other romantic relationships that left me with a sense of disappointment at kind of the result of that, the ending of those things. And so there's a desire not to have history repeat itself in the situation with you that has happened with previous people, where maybe they gave up on the situation too soon, cracked under pressure, or felt very sort of overwhelmed and kind of ran the other direction instead of using that as an opportunity to kind of build trust or open up kind of vulnerability or lines of communication with, a previous romantic partner. And so there's a sense that here's an opportunity to sort of do something different, to save the two of you unnecessary heartbreak, and to really just sort of evolve as a person, or evolve in terms of the ways that they are allowing themselves to communicate, or opening themselves up to sort of problem solving, it feels like, with you, to move beyond whatever has happened. So let's take a look at a little more details about kind of some of the blocks or fears or challenges that they are dealing with or addressing or working on at this point. Okay, we have wish and freedom. So there's a fear that you will slip through their fingers. There's a sense that they recognize this connection in many ways is a wish come true. It is, a dream come true. They have manifested you and this situation, and that they feel very free to be themselves, which it feels like that in and of itself might have made them feel kind of nervous or vulnerable. So like, how do I act in a situation where I don't have to put on a performance, where I don't have to put on a show, where I am accepted as I am in totality as a person? That it feels like may have been something that almost they could have looked at you in the situation as too good to be true, or feeling very kind of like, I don't know how to act in this circumstance. So when difficulties arose, they sort of slip back into old patterns. And there's a sense that whatever distance has been created, whether it's a full no contact situation, or there's just awkwardness, or like a difficult conversation that needs to take place, even if that difficult conversation is just them admitting to sort of deeper feelings that they have that could be very overwhelming for them, and kind of cause them to pull back their energy, or things that were said and done, that created heartbreak, maybe based on a misunderstanding or just an impulsivity on their part. There's a sense of almost like, I want to be vulnerable. I want to open up and be truthful about this with you, but I don't want to create more hurt. I don't want to create more distress. I don't want to overwhelm myself and kind of push you away even further. So it feels like they've been reflecting on some things. It's like a highly self-aware person, even if their conduct sort of speaks to the opposite. They may be somebody who has a very loud inner critic. They're always kind of picking apart sort of their flaws, the things that they have done to kind of lead to their own sort of misery or upsets in situations, or just circumstances that aren't aligned completely with sort of their idea of harmony. And so there's this energy here of kind of like, you represent something that is very different from what they've known in love and partnership. The way that they feel with you is very harmonious. It feels really good inside. But whatever has sort of happened to kind of create this distance, there's a sense of like, if I don't act soon, if I don't act now, I might miss that window of opportunity. If I don't say or do the right thing, then it might make matters worse. Or kind of beyond all of that, there seems like there's also a fear of kind of getting your hopes up, making false promises, or promises that they can't necessarily fulfill, that they're not entirely confident that if they open their heart up to you, they're not going to become overwhelmed and sort of run again. So they value your time and energy, and there's a sense of like, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to build a sense of anticipation within you only to let you down further down the road. So it feels like they're kind of choosing the comfort of silence or just sort of keeping all of this to themselves at this point. But it's a challenge because there's a sense of like somebody like you doesn't come around twice in a lifetime. If they don't do something to kind of clear the air between the two of you or create some greater clarity and understanding, then they risk losing you to someone else. Or, maybe you will kind of close off your defense mechanisms will go up as a self-protective means based on kind of they've almost given you no choice but to do that because of whatever it is that they've said, or whatever it is that they've done, or whatever it is that they're withholding that may just present as kind of difficult energy or like a closed off energy. You may be questioning, like, are they even interested? What is their kind of thoughts or plans for the future? What are their intentions in this situation? So you at one point in time might have been very invested in kind of building with this person or holding space for them through some ups and downs. It might be not the first time that you've had kind of this awkwardness or this distance. Could have been like a hot and cold sort of situation, a back and forth situation. And so there's a sense of almost like fearing that your patience is running thin, or being aware that it is, and kind of they need to make a move in a positive way, something that kind of changes things for the better in a very permanent sense, or there's this energy, this understanding within them of kind of missing out on you, missing out on this wish fulfillment that they've manifested in, but that their fears wouldn't allow them to kind of fully trust in at face value. So let's take a look at their potential actions towards you. Okay, we have relationship patterns. So this definitely speaks to the energy of almost like a deep conversation, something where they again will continue to be very kind of critical of themselves. They've identified a pattern here in terms of what has happened between the two of you, that it's not the first time that they've kind of jumped into this character. It's not the first time that this is sort of the behavior that has come out when it comes, time to kind of express things emotionally, or they've caught deep feelings for people. It can really indicate a lot of heartbreak or wounding from the past that they hadn't properly healed or cauterized those wounds. And so it feels like by investing a lot of energy, a lot of attention, looking at that from many different angles, maybe even opening up to trusted people in their life to sort of explain what has happened and get some sort of advice about what to do. People who may have kind of a deeper understanding, or very emotional people in their life who think in terms of feelings, who would think in terms of, like past relationships, or may even be kind of educated as far as, like psychological patterns, or different kind of almost like the relationship expert in terms of their family and friends group, but not someone that's going to advise based on the ego, but somebody, or certain individuals that may be very soul based, very emotionally based. It's almost kind of sharing with those individuals sort of the nature of their own kind of history, romantically speaking, what they've identified as patterns and wounds, and how that's kind of played out in the situation with you, in order to sort of strategize the best way to use this as an opportunity to kind of strengthen your connection, to not only provide some sort of healing, some sort of clarity, some sort of explanation, but not just to step back into the old loop or the old pattern, but to really try and course correct, do something that they've never done before, maybe even share things with you that they've kept to themselves, they've withheld up to this point in time, so that there's a greater degree of trust that can be built between the two of you, so that a fresh start or kind of warming up to you again can bring with it almost a lot more depth and clarity on an emotional level than they had provided in the past. And it feels like they're cautious about not making excuses for themselves, but kind of that fine line between how much is an explanation and how much is just kind of trying to dismiss my behavior or conduct, blaming it on sort of circumstances of brokenness from the past. But there is a sense of almost trying to provide you with some kind of a perspective that shows you they are self-aware. They're looking at this beyond just what has happened in a very immediate sense, but they're tracing that back to something deeper within that it feels like might almost be kind of a form of reassurance, sort of like, I've identified this as a pattern. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to work on it, trying to find my way through. This is what I've discovered. This is the conclusion that I've come to, and kind of an option as far as moving beyond that, that it feels like will be kind of an effort to sort of co-create with you. Let's partner together as I'm navigating this shadow or this wound within, so that you have a greater understanding of kind of like what I'm working with, where I'm at in my own sort of personal journey, so that can hopefully kind of mitigate your expectations or shift them in some sort of way, so that you're not kind of expecting this person to sort of come back in promising the world, like over promising and under delivering. There's a sense of almost being realistic or wanting to only sort of present you with what they can reasonably sort of back up as far as actions are concerned. Not, again, like wanting to overpromise and underdeliver, but in some way it feels like they're getting ready to or taking steps toward some kind of a declaration to you that is well thought out, that has been like discussed with other people, that provides you with some context as far as the deeper layers of who they are as a person, what they're working with, kind of their backstory, and how that might inform sort of the way that you're able to repair the situation or build forward towards the future with one another. So let's get some message cards from their higher self and see what your twin flame wants you to know right now. Okay, and we have, I am really a huge, sensitive softie. The tough guy or girl thing is just a facade. Yeah, so it feels like emotions are kind of this person's Achilles heel. It's their weak spot. They don't really know how to even express to themselves or put into words to themselves what it is that they're feeling. So this is, again, something where they may be seeking advice, seeking counsel from people in their lives that do kind of operate in the world in more of that emotional sort of way, in order to kind of almost like fast track themselves, sort of like a crash course. And this is how I talk about my feelings. This is the way that I'm not just feeling those things inside of myself, but I'm able to translate that out to another person. They may be sort of rehearsing what they're going to say with trusted people that, again, think about things in an emotional way, that are sort of evolved purely beyond just ego consciousness, and that kind of partake of the world in more of that emotional capacity, in order to, it feels like, ease some degree of anxiety within themselves as far as like a conversation. It might even just be something where the idea of like, I'm sorry, this is what I've reflected on, this is what I'm working on, that could bring forth a lot of nervousness for them, because it involves sort of opening the door to a deeper layer within themselves emotionally, where they've not let anyone into that quadrant of themselves in a while or ever, or there's a sense of like, I've never led this way in a relationship, but in the circumstance with you, it feels like it requires something that I've never done before in order to achieve sort of different results than what we've had with one another up to this point in time. So again, it's something that there's a lot of planning, it feels like, in sort of their next step towards you, or kind of their reemergence in your life, or resuming more of that regular contact, so that it's not just we're back on with one another and we're looping around in that same pattern, but it's really an opportunity to sort of transcend that and build in a different direction. And we also have, when I go silent, it's about my own fears and insecurities, not you. Please don't take it personally and wonder what you did wrong. Yeah, so again, any energy of kind of like pulling back into themselves, retreating from this connection, being sort of caught within their own thoughts, or in like a meditative state. You might even feel, if you're in like a full no contact, you may feel this person's energy sort of drop away. And it's not that they've detached from you or this connection. It's a sense that they're very focused on kind of their next step forward, how to make amends, how to make things right, how to turn the page in this situation in a way that represents an opportunity for evolution, not just for something new to develop between the two of you, but almost like a new version of themselves to be brought online and kind of introduced into this connection, which they have come to the conclusion is sort of the best thing. It's almost like the best gift that they can offer to you and to themselves and to this situation, is to kind of dive deep within, into that hurting space, into that feeling space, and to be able to, resurface as a more emotionally mature person, or an emotionally aware person, compared to like who they were whenever sort of the disconnect happened, whenever a misunderstanding happened, or whenever sort of that overwhelm happened that would have caused them to sort of pull away when things were going well between the two of you. And they also say, I will protect you until my very last breath. So this kind of speaks to, very conscious sort of decision making here, as far as not coming towards you until they feel emotionally ready to follow up on promises that are made. There's a sense they don't want to waste your time. They don't want to create any more anguish than has already been created at this point. And there's a sense that they're needing to kind of go through some rebirthing process within themselves, that they're understanding it's kind of like, this needs to happen. I need to be very proactive and diligent with this. I can't sit around and kind of let this take years to unfold. So it feels like they're very deliberately trying to kind of move through this process of confronting a lot of shadows, a lot of fears that they hold inside, in a very sort of deliberate way, in order to be able to kind of present you with something, provide you with like a different version of themselves than they had been previously. And they also say, I may not verbalize it, but you are my everything. Yeah, so there's another confirmation that talking about their feelings may be very difficult for them in general. They could be somebody who's a very stoic person. They're really good with kind of light and airy sort of feelings, but deep feelings, things that get into that emotional territory where there's intensity and there's also like a risk of being hurt. That is something that it feels like makes them very uncomfortable. A lot of unhealed wounds from emotional relationships in the past. They may have been raised in kind of a family environment where feelings weren't talked about, or people kind of just, painful things happen, you stuff it down and you move forward. So it's a sense of kind of, again, like deep waters are the things that they are not most comfortable navigating with. But they recognize that that's a challenge in this situation, that this relationship with you, or the ability to kind of secure the future of the relationship with you, requires them to dive deep. It requires them to get into that territory that they're not exactly comfortable with, in order to not just sort of throw up their hands and say, well, this is how I am, take it or leave it. But it's a sense of they're so invested in like the idea of a future with you that they are pulling out all the stops as far as how to kind of evolve themselves, how to start to kind of create some sort of dialogue or even language within themselves to describe the nature of their feelings, to process kind of fears or wounding, or even the nature of like the intensity of being presented with wish fulfillment. This could really have highlighted for them kind of a deep-seated, pervasive kind of lack mentality, feelings of unworthiness that don't coincide with like the material experience of you, the joy and the harmony and the closeness and the bliss that they've experienced. You present as a very safe person, a very safe space, for them to be seen and for them to be cherished. And so there's a sense that they want to vanquish these fears, kind of walk through that fire in order to be able to kind of meet you on that higher level, present you with a different version of them that has the capacity to support you, not just when times are good, but when times are difficult. And so it feels like at this point, they're really investing in kind of supporting themselves through this process of kind of going down, getting to the root of whatever it is caused them to sort of create some, fluctuations in this situation, or to kind of pull back or run from you or retreat from the circumstance in order to be able to reemerge and present you with a more self-aware and kind of empowered version of themselves. So I'm going to get some initials. Can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got G, B, V, F, Q, U, Z, O, P, C, K, C, P, D, M, D, W, V, and T. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, group 2. You chose this heart. So let's take a look and see what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the state of the connection right now. Okay, we have Master Hilarion and Archangel Raphael, Divine Talents, and Star Child. So this kind of indicates that your twin flame is going through some sort of like heart chakra activation or opening. They may be bombarded with a lot of deep feelings for you at this particular point in time. They are thinking about you and the connection from a mostly emotional space. If they had been kind of in a battle between the head and the heart, it feels like they have finally surrendered to their heart. They have opened up to the reality that there is this unquestionable, undeniable pull between the two of you that may defy logic in a lot of ways. If there are certain details or aspects of your situation that from the outside may present as kind of unorthodox, unusual, problematic even. Like if there are third parties involved, there's like an age difference between the two of you, different sort of religious background, culture, geographic kind of distance between the two of you, any of these things that in a material sense might have been almost prohibitive elements or things that at first glance had sort of made this connection feel difficult to sustain or kind of impossible to be the sort of situation that could ever come to a place of fruition, materially speaking, that might have caused them in the past to sort of choose the safer route, the easier path forward, remaining very kind of aligned to the reality of those blocks, or almost like choosing the path of fear previously. There's a sense that they've not found the satisfaction that they were seeking or looking for, or those kind of outside circumstances, they're seeing that now as just sort of excuses, and that has worn thin. There's kind of more evidence that the heart space is providing them, maybe through this kind of heart chakra opening or activation, that is encouraging them to start to listen to their heart more, start to evaluate these feelings, start to look at the possibilities of what if, the gray area, the wiggle room in the situation, that kind of takes this circumstance out of just a very black and white, it could never work, it would be too difficult, there'd be too many people disappointed, or, the challenges seem insurmountable, that might have caused them to, again, kind of choose to not invest so much of themselves in participating with you. They could have been right on pace with you up to a certain point and then just kind of ducked out of the situation, cut away, ghosted you, or kind of just dropped off very quickly. And that feels that would have been sort of the evidence of the headspace, of logic, of kind of the practical mind, not trusting in kind of the nature of your bond with one another, not trusting in the nature of sort of what was happening, or the opportunity that was presented, emotionally speaking, in the aspect of kind of your emergence in their life and in their reality. That it feels like at this particular point in time, it's become very undeniable. They can no longer deny their feelings. They can no longer deny that this is something unusual. This is something very once in a lifetime. There's still an effect that you and the situation are having upon them, even if they had chosen to kind of close their heart off to you. Your energy is being felt around them very, very palpably at this particular point in time. They may be getting a lot of signs and synchronicities related to you, a lot happening within the dream space, the liminal space, the astral realm, things where it's almost like it's very exhausting to resist this connection, to resist their feelings. And so it feels like they've definitely dropped down into that heart space. So you may be even feeling kind of the opening of these energies once again between the two of you. You may be sensing a lot more of a fluidity or an ease in connecting with this person during meditation, or even if you have like communications or interactions with one another in a material world. You may be sensing that there's a flow state between the two of you where it may have been kind of very brittle in the past or recently. It could have been very obvious that they were resisting this, or maybe they were just kind of avoiding you altogether. And so this kind of signals that that is sort of loosening up in some sort of way as a result. And this might even be a result of kind of you detaching from the situation, you kind of just taking the circumstance as it is, and respecting this person's decision to not participate with you, to not want to invest, or to be kind of closed off about the circumstance, and anything that you've done to kind of gather up your energies and sort of set your sights towards other things, redirect the focus on self, toward healing, toward kind of building abundance for yourself, or kind of trusting in sort of a greater plan of the universe to align you with a person who's ready, willing, and able to meet you at that kind of higher vibrational, emotional level. Any of those things, or combination of those things, it feels like it's translated to your twin flame, and it's allowed them to kind of, it's almost like taken the pressure off of any sort of pursuit, any sort of chase, any sort of expectation that they act one way or another, even if that was all just kind of imagined or assumed or theoretical. If you'd not directly put pressure upon them, they could have felt very, very backed into a corner, like they needed to decide, like it would have required a lot of sacrifice, or giving a lot of things up about themselves, about kind of the identity they formed for themselves, the life that they've been living, in order to kind of pursue or to hold space for you and your connection. And so it feels like you respecting that decision in some sort of way on their part has allowed them to sit with kind of the full and organic nature of more of the subtle energies between the two of you, that it feels like that is more of a powerful force than whatever fear-based kind of paradigms have caused them to sort of close their mind off to the idea of you in this situation up to this point, or to kind of close the doors to their heart. Those doors are wide open now, and they're very much in a feeling space of looking at this, thinking about this, kind of giving it another glance, or operating in that territory of like, what if? So let's take a look at any kind of a major block, obstacle, challenge, or fear that they are dealing with at this particular point in time in conjunction to you in the connection. Okay, we have Keeper of Hope and Keeper of Harvest. So there's a fear almost of things that need to be given up in order to create space for this situation between the two of you to blossom further. And there's a fear of almost like, because of the intensity, or maybe the unusual way by which the two of you met, or the nature of kind of what they're feeling, or anything within the dynamic that's sort of out of the ordinary for them in terms of their experiences in love and romance, or where they were at in their life when you cross paths with one another, and even vice versa. There's a sense of almost like, yeah, there's all this palpable energy between the two of you. Yeah, there are these deep feelings. Yes, there's this kind of unexplainable bond, but is that a solid enough foundation to build something stable and substantial in the future? It's almost kind of like weighing, is it too great of a risk to sort of turn away even completely from the idea of where they had kind of been in opposition to the idea of a future with you, or they'd been in that mode of resistance? There's almost a sense of like, what will I have to give up? Is there anything that I will have to go back to, even just in terms of like an identity within themselves? If there's nothing like materially that they're needing to sort of depart from in their life, it's just kind of opening up to a new perspective, or taking on sort of a new layer of their own perception of what love can look like. So maybe somebody that has only been based on sort of like attracts like, and this may be very much like an opposites attract situation. And so there's almost a sense of like, if I open myself up completely to this, if I participate with you emotionally, I can't go back to the person that I was before. You've already changed me so substantially as an individual, just in our experiences with one another up to this point in time, that there's almost kind of this fear of the unknown, or sort of like, if we keep building in this direction, or I give to you in a thorough and reciprocal kind of way, what is the harvest of that? What is the yield of that? If this is so out of the ordinary, if this is so unexpected, what would our life in a material sense look like sort of further down the road? There's a sense that this person may, in their past, like kind of earlier in their life at some point, they may have been extremely jaded as far as love is concerned. They may have led from the heart space and been really heartbroken, devastated, or betrayed in some sort of way that caused them to sort of reframe the ways in which they viewed or pursued kind of partnerships. It had to then make sense according to like a checklist or things on like a logical or practical level with sort of love and emotions. Almost somebody that might have thought chemistry and attraction is enough. Love grows later. Love is something which ripens with time. It's not something to be experienced immediately. It's not something that needs to kind of take precedence in terms of like a decision to build with another person. It may even be that if they were in a third party situation that is like past its expiration date, they've just stayed for practical purposes, but it may be a very loveless connection. And it feels like prior to your sort of arrival in their life, they may have been content with that. They were okay with the fact that sort of the love was gone or it had cooled off so substantially in maybe another relationship that they were fine without it because in a practical or material sense their needs were met or it made sense on the surface. And yet there's something that's kind of beckoning a part of them that had been dormant or shut down to sort of awaken or enliven again. So it feels like it's really challenging, not just to kind of the idea of what can the future between the two of us look like, but there's something at this time where like their attention is drawn to the past, kind of whatever their major heartbreak was that sort of caused them to reframe the ways in which they were quantifying sort of what is a good connection to invest in, what's the proper way to build, what are the steps that one should take in order to generate a partnership with another person. It's almost that this connection or these feelings between the two of you encourages them to love as if they've never been hurt before, and that's a huge risk to them because there's almost a sense of, I remember what happened the last time I built with somebody and it all washed away, and kind of how that changed me as a person. If I bring that version of myself back online and things don't work out between the two of us in the future, if this just turns out to be like a lesson or a fleeting experience and I've been lifted up so high on the wings of love or this particular love, what's that fall going to look like? What's the wreckage and the aftermath of that experience going to look like? So it's almost like they're wanting to take kind of a step forward in an emotional way, but the logical mind is really struggling at this point to fully kind of relinquish sort of the worst case scenarios or the fears of what if. So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. Okay, we have love endures. So it feels like this person, your twin flame, will likely sort of linger in that area of just dipping into that heart space energy. It feels that it's very necessary for them to kind of fill their own cup at this particular point in time, learn to trust in the nature of the energies that they feel within, maybe even kind of walk through the world looking with that heart lens as kind of the primary sort of focal point for how they're evaluating belief systems that would need to kind of be loosened in some sort of way in order to accommodate sort of the unique circumstances between the two of you. Anything as far as like the life that they're living, material circumstances that sort of are obstructions to the free expression between the two of you, or actively pursuing you and a connection in a substantial and kind of realistic sense. It feels that they are likely going to evaluate those things again from more of like, does this feel right to me emotionally? There may be things that have kind of they've needed to break away from for quite some time, that they were just sort of staying stuck because they were convenient. They were choosing the easy path, and it's almost like there's no ability to kind of outrun that. It might be a harder road forward to whatever the future holds between the two of you, but it's something that their soul wants. It's something that they've connected with you. There's like a magnetic click between the two of you now, emotionally speaking. There's a lot happening in that kind of subtle realm, in that liminal space. There's no unfeeling what they feel. There's no unseeing what they have seen in this situation. And so it feels that there will be kind of steps taken behind the scenes, kind of in the distance, during maybe a prolonged or more of a prolonged period of separation between the two of you, or disconnect, where they're kind of just shut down, or not kind of feeding in as richly to the connection as they have in the past if you're still in communication with your twin flame. But there's a sense of really sort of evaluating, okay, this is the conduct that I'm needing to, maybe for appearance's sake or practicalities, or just because it's the status quo that's been established. This is kind of the exchange between the two of us, but it's not satisfying to me on an emotional level. I can't just continue on in that sense. And so it feels like efforts, again, sort of made to clear away any obstructions that they can, or start to look at those things that were like hard and fast rules, to see that from sort of a different perspective, kind of armed with the light of the energy of this connection as kind of that guiding force forward. That it feels like, there's movement on their part. There's almost kind of excavating something of themselves deep from within, that is kind of a first step of like reframing the way that they're looking at the world, or the world that they're living in, the life that they've built for themselves, to consciously in certain ways and also subconsciously create some more space, by which kind of the energies between the two of you have the opportunity to sort of flourish, or become more of like a dominant presence in their life. It's again, like, they can't unsee what they've seen. They can't unfeel what they feel for you. And the logical mind is now kind of taking a backseat to that emotional space. And so it feels like this is kind of a cleansing period, or a recalibration period, of their relationship with themselves and kind of the relationship with the life that they're living, which is an investment in sort of future actions towards you. But it starts like close to home first. It starts with them sort of creating like the proper environment internally and externally to be able to offer you something, to be able to invite you in closer, without kind of having so much of those conflicting ideas or experiences or people, places, and things sort of operating as wedges and barriers to what can develop between the two of you. So let's get some messages from their higher self and see what your twin flame wants you to know right now. And they say those eyes, though. So it feels like they're very mesmerized by you. They're thinking of you. You are kind of etched within their mind's eye. They're very focused on you. You're almost kind of a light at the end of the tunnel for them as they're going through some sort of transitional period. At this point, learning to kind of navigate from more of that heart space, as opposed to kind of just looking at the world, looking at themselves, looking at the connection between the two of you just from a practical, logical stance. You've made this person a believer in some sort of way, in terms of next level love, or a deeper, more transcendent level of feeling, experiencing themselves, experiencing another person, experiencing the world around them than they had had the capacity to kind of feel with or perceive with prior to your arrival. And so it feels like you're definitely a focal point for them. They're no longer like ignoring this. They're no longer in denial, in some sort of way, but it's almost like keeping their eye on you. You're the prize. They've got their eye on the prize, and it's almost kind of allowing their heart space or the emotional space to kind of pull them along this sort of pathway to sort of transcending any obstacles that are real or imagined within themselves or within their life, in order to be able to participate with you in kind of more fully and in a different way than they have up to this point. We also have, I know a lot more than I let on. So they definitely have deeper feelings for you than you are aware of. This is somebody that thinks about you a lot more than they have conveyed. This is somebody who has definitely considered kind of leaving certain things behind and just headed straight towards you, investing in you fully, investing in this connection. It feels like you've had a very palpable effect upon them, something that they can't shake that feeling of almost like a destined aspect to this situation. They may be in the stage of their life right now of kind of looking up, researching soul connections, soulmates, twin flames, kind of expanding their spiritual knowledge in some sort of way, because they really feel that you've, as much as there's been like resistance in some way, it's almost like you've changed their life for the better. You've opened their eyes in some sort of a capacity. They know that what they feel for you is rare, it's unique, it's happened at this point, not just as a temptation or some kind of a forbidden fruit, but it's almost like they're seeing this as an opportunity to kind of expand, or maybe even sort of seize the moment, seize the opportunity to have a second chance at love, or to experience kind of the richness of love that was denied or deprived to them in the past, that is now here at this particular juncture in time. They also say, I dream about you almost every night. So a lot happening within the liminal space, within the astral realm, you and your twin flame connecting very strongly in that subtle space. It feels that you are a guide for them at this particular point in time, as they're starting to learn to navigate the world, like their internal world and the world that they have built for themselves from that emotional lens. You may be that way shower, that kind of sensitive and intuitive energy that they're really almost subconsciously, or if they're even kind of like watching you from afar, maybe on social media, or kind of just picking up on your vibe, as they're around you in some sort of way, it's calibrating something within them. They're almost kind of aligning with your frequency, consciously and even unconsciously speaking, because there's definitely sort of ascension kind of themes here, a different version of this person, regardless of what happens in the future between the two of you. It's almost like you have crossed paths with one another at this particular point in time in order to sort of lift each other up in different ways, and yet in a conjoined sense, beyond kind of the vibration or the frequency that you are sort of maintaining up to one point in time in your personal life journey. They also say, do you even see how awesomely, perfectly imperfect you are? So again, this is the energy of like surrendering to that heart space, surrendering to that emotional pull that has given them the green light that you are in their highest good. This connection, opening up to it fully, or exploring it on more of a deeper level than they've allowed themselves to do at this particular point in time, is in their best interest. Even if things don't make sense in a material sense, it's almost like their soul is pulled to where it belongs. They know that the two of you belong to one another, with one another. And so it's a sense of, again, you may really be perceiving that the energies between the two of you are taking on sort of a different feel, a different sort of experience. Even if there's not a lot happening in the material sense, if it's still kind of quiet, or you're in like a full no contact, you may notice that you don't feel as much pressure or resistance from them, emotionally speaking. There may be more of an ease of kind of the dips in and out of your energy field that sort of are evidence of some kind of an evolution within them, beyond that energy of like holding on very tightly or pushing away from the idea of you and the connection. It's almost like they're allowing themselves to kind of tap in and sort of saturate themselves in sort of the shared energy, and then kind of drift back into their reality and utilize that as kind of a light or a frequency by which they are navigating, sort of seeing other things in their reality for what they are, and perhaps even kind of making some choices, conscious efforts to sort of disconnect or distance themselves from things that don't serve their highest good, or again, were just kind of kept in place out of convenience, or like a fear of change almost. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got W, V, C, X, F, F, H, V, E, N, M, B, B, R, E, G, I, D, and P. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose this crystal. So let's start by taking a look at what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the state of the connection right now. Okay, we have 7th ray of ritual, order, and ceremony. Initiation by water, and initiation by air. So there's a sense here that your twin flame has transcended some kind of concept as far as kind of the purpose or the meaning for the two of you aligning with one another in this lifetime, that can definitely speak to embracing some of the spiritual components of this situation, of this connection, being in connection with you, exchanges with you directly or even energetically from afar. It feels like it's healed this person. You've cleansed this person on a soul level or on an emotional level or on an energetic level, to where it feels like grievances, pain, heaviness, things that had been weighing upon them, even on an unconscious level, maybe they're for their whole life or for a long time. It's almost like these things have washed away. The slate has been cleared within themselves, and they're able to trace that back to the very rejuvenating and healing experience of not just your energy, but almost kind of the energy that the two of you co-create with one another. They're seeing you as a very essential component to their life moving forward, or even kind of, again, sort of questioning beyond just sort of the feel-good nature of the dynamic between the two of you. There's almost a sense of like, their perception has been cleansed in some sort of way, and they're seeing there's like a higher purpose to this, something that may kind of involve sort of like a mission or like a purpose that you are meant to kind of actualize together, not just anchoring in sort of a higher frequency of love, but something where it's almost like you've unblocked a lot of creative potential within your twin flame. You've helped them to kind of see themselves from like a higher lens than they were able to operate through the world up to the point of meeting you, or again kind of shedding a lot of heaviness or doubt within. You've made them feel very kind of seen, very validated, very accepted for who they are, flaws and all, and it feels like this is something that has helped them to kind of go easier on themselves, to cultivate compassion for themselves, as opposed to putting on so much pressure to perform or to be something that they're not, to keep up with appearances. It's almost like they've been able to kind of relax in your presence, and it's brought them more ability to kind of move with ease through the nature of their own life, of their own reality. So there's a sense here of they're really seeing you as a gift, as a blessing in their reality, as something that, like, I don't know where I would be without you. I don't know who I would be without you. You help to make so many things within me make sense, that there's an eagerness, there's an enthusiasm to continue to invest in this connection, to see what can unfold, between the two of you, and kind of like the years to come almost. So it feels like they're thinking in a very long-term capacity. If this has already been the experience between the two of us up to this point in time, what possibly could the future hold? What sort of new aspects of revelation or rebirth can kind of take place? How else can I feel that I'm able to kind of find myself or accept myself, or that I feel like I'm in the right place in my life, even if there's things that they need to change, or that they've needed to kind of course correct in some way. There's like a confidence that they associate with the version of them that kind of comes forth as a byproduct of the exchanges with you, or like who they are in context to the idea of like in conjunction with you, almost like power couple sort of energy, that really motivates them or incentivizes them to look towards the future, not just between the two of you, but in their life in general, with hope and enthusiasm, as opposed to maybe sort of a feeling of they could have been very closed off to the idea of love and partnership, almost like maybe I'll just have to kind of walk the earth in the pleasure of my own company, because I'm not able to connect with anyone on that deep and pervasive level. I'm not able to experience kind of next level partnership, or even sort of a healthy relationship, a deep relationship, like maybe they've seen other people experience. It feels that they see you as somebody very loyal, very much that you have their highest good in mind. You have a lot of self-respect. You have really good boundaries in place, and yet you're very supportive of them, maybe through some kind of transitional journey in their life, or as they've even needed to sort of take some time to sort of soul search, seek and find the answers for themselves in terms of like who you are to one another, what this connection means, what they would like to experience in the future. And so there's a sense of feeling very supported by you in that capacity, rather than kind of forced to be something that they're not, or maybe they had dealt with previous partners that were just kind of all the attention had to be on them. It was all about keeping that other person happy, and no one really sort of checked in with your twin flame, or really kind of had their best interests at heart. It was all kind of like one-sided connections. Maybe they were having to kind of overgive, or have a tendency to be a giver, and there's a sense of like a deep reciprocity, a deep respect for who they are as an individual, and again, like very sort of gentle encouragement to kind of rise beyond any difficulties, doubts, or uncertainties within, where they're really seeing you as like a force for good in their life. You're an uplifting presence. You nourish your twin flame on an emotional level, on a soul level, on a creative level. You bring out the best in them, and this is very consciously recognized at this point. So there's a lot of gratitude for you, and also kind of a deep motivation to invest in this connection more thoroughly in order to build towards the future with one another. So let's take a look at some of the blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they are dealing with at this particular point in time in conjunction to you and the connection. Okay, we have contradiction and keeper of love. So there's a fear of some kind of aspect that exists deep within them that maybe has never seen the light of day in terms of a romantic connection, that there's almost like, are you going to like this version of me? Or is my love language going to be something which satisfies you on a deep soul level? Is this like, how deep can we get with one another? How high can we rise in love with one another? There's a sense that they want to share more of themselves, invite you into some kind of internal landscape. But there's a sense of who they are kind of beneath the surface, some of the more intricate layers of who they are as a person, hopes, dreams, and aspirations, or even things that they crave or need or desire on an emotional level that have never been expressed to other partners before in the past. And so it's a sense of like, I don't even know if these needs are capable of being met by another person, or the sense of like people previously who had ridiculed them, or kind of pushed them away, or even sort of looked at some degree of vulnerability within as like a sign of weakness, maybe even that they were taken advantage because of these aspects. Like a softness or a gentleness that exists within them that could be quite contradictory to sort of a more logical or like a hard exterior that they present. It's almost a sense of they feel very safe with you, but it's almost like, will you be gentle with this aspect of me? There may be a lot of wounds that were stubborn to heal, deep and pervasive scars, trust issues that they have, a variety of things that almost require kind of a gentle touch, or a very sort of quiet or deliberate approach forward into kind of the next phase of connecting with one another. that there's a sense of like, are you going to find this quality about me or this aspect, this facet of who I am as appealing as you have found maybe more of the delightful qualities or even certain shadow aspects, challenges that you've been through and that you've overcome. There's almost a sense of kind of like, can you be the strong one for the two of us? Not in the sense of almost like, you know, holding space while this person is like working through denial or shadows, but almost like aspects of themselves that they're wanting to share, kind of the deficits within or the underdeveloped aspects within themselves, with almost a sense of like, I don't know how to fix these parts of me. I don't even maybe want to fix these parts of me. Can you just accept these aspects for what they are? Are there components within you that can kind of compensate for the things that I perceive, or maybe even that other people have made them perceive are kind of lacking or are not sort of advantageous qualities or aspects to building something satisfying with another person. And so there's again like this deep desire to kind of invite you in further, but a sense of almost like, you like the confident me, but what do you think about the frightened me? What do you think about the version of me that doesn't have all the answers, that is prone to doubt, is prone to self-sabotage, is, you know, kind of uncertain what the future holds? Can you be that light of belief for the two of us? So again, kind of more of a desire to have equitable partnership with you, or to experience something in terms of giving you the opportunity to kind of almost peruse some sort of internal quadrant of themselves that few have entered or maybe nobody's had access to before, that it's almost like this is an untouched realm within, or it's a soft spot inside of themselves that it's a huge extension of trust in order to, you know, invite you into that space. And it feels like something that it's a big step forward, this kind of vulnerability that they may want to introduce into the connection or present you with kind of at this phase moving forward. And it's almost like, if I show you this part of my soul, will you be gentle? So it's almost like a fear of opening up, or kind of inviting you in more. So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. Okay, we have the Union of Hearts. Yeah, so this feels like inviting you in for more closeness, kind of shifting their approach in this situation. Not that is kind of indicating distance, but almost a sense of like inviting you to take the lead in some sort of way in this situation, even if it's just to kind of be a silent observer in some of the aspects of themselves that they are getting ready to kind of demonstrate to you. Hoping that you won't flinch, that you won't run away, that you won't kind of lose love for them, but that this is an opportunity to kind of strengthen your bond with one another by declaring or demonstrating some of those more kind of vulnerable aspects, what they perceive as like weaknesses within themselves. And it's a sense of like, you've made such a significant impression upon them, or the dynamic between the two of you is it's had such a significant impact that they've almost been guided by their higher self, or maybe they've been praying about this, kind of seeking answers or reassurances, you know, from their spirit guides or their higher power, just kind of whatever they resonate with, as sort of like, okay, if we're gonna take this forward to the next level, and it's clear and apparent that there's sort of more than meets the eye in this situation, it's going to require an approach that is not just getting to know someone on kind of a practical sense, but this is almost like inviting you into kind of an energetic or like a feeling space that, again, nobody's had access to, or they've only maybe invited one other person into this place. Someone got a peek behind the curtain, maybe didn't like what they saw, or mishandled that aspect of your twin flame, and it caused them to perhaps like close off or tuck almost like a very beautiful part of themselves away within the shadow. So this is almost kind of an invitation, sort of like, can you help me to love myself more? Can you help me to find ways to love or to accept this part of myself that fills me with shame, or that hasn't been received well, or maybe I've been afraid to show anyone previously because it's kind of very contrary to what I've been raised to believe are sort of positive qualities, desirable qualities, the marks or the indicators of kind of what would make sort of a good partner. Maybe things they're opening up to you about, as far as their past, or like fears or insecurities, things that don't exactly paint them in the best light, kind of sharing with you sort of their worst moments in the hopes that you will still hold space for them, have compassion for them, or bring them in even kind of closer to your sort of emotional realm, your emotional landscape. So let's get some messages from your twin flames higher self and see what they want you to know right now. Okay, and they say, I don't think I ever experienced real love until I met you. Yeah, so you definitely, you have exceeded the capacity of what they thought they were capable of feeling or experiencing or exchanging with another person. It definitely feels like they equate you with being the love of their life, the one, the treasure in their life, kind of the reason that things fell apart with all other people was specifically to align the two of you with one another. There's a depth of emotion that they're experiencing that it feels like even kind of transcends words. It transcends explanation. It can only be felt. It's almost kind of a radiant, like a spiritual, almost like spiritual ecstasy is something that they're kind of going through at this particular point in time, that it feels like has them almost very much in a state of awe at different kind of points. They're just sort of sitting in this feeling space, saturating themselves with it, feeling very grateful, very, very blessed to be at a place in their life to be able to encounter or to experience you. And so it's definitely motivating them to invite you in closer, to kind of do what they can and what they must, and even unexpected things, to be able to sort of show you and demonstrate to you that they're invested in this in a long-term sense, that they choose you, they choose this connection in a long-term capacity. We also have, I'm really a huge sensitive softie. The tough guy girl thing is just a facade. Yeah, so there's that confirmation of wanting to invite you into that space of vulnerability, share some things about you, or trusting you to kind of take the lead in this situation, even if it means they're just sort of taking off their armor, they're relaxing, they're not kind of putting on as much of a show as they have, or pretending that they have all the answers, that they've got some kind of plan of action moving forward. It's almost the sense of you're in unknown territory with one another. This may be bringing up some fears, some uncertainties, and a sense of almost like, are you okay with that if I need to lean upon you? Are you okay with kind of being the one that's in the spotlight, being the one that's kind of at the head of the pack in this situation, as far as like what we are building going forward? So it's a huge degree of trust that it feels like they're investing in you, not because you need to prove that you're trustworthy. It feels like that's already occurred, but it's almost like an investment of trust within themselves. They're exercising kind of this ability to allow themselves to go with the flow of the situation, to allow themselves not to just have to pour into a situation, but really expand into a place of receiving, which may be kind of difficult for them to receive love from other people. And so this is something where it's almost like you looking upon them with compassion, with affection, with understanding, or even just holding the space in order to, kind of get to know this sort of other aspect, or this new aspect of them that they're wanting to introduce, almost like a quiet energy, or like a softer sort of energy. It's a sense of, are you going to hold me closer, or is this going to make you push me away? Is this something to where you can shelter this component of me, because I'm wanting to allow you to do that. I'm wanting to be kind of felt or seen or experienced in this capacity, directly, emotionally, energetically speaking. We also have, every time I hear or see your name, I can't help but smile. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot happening energetically between the two of you. They feel very magnetically pulled towards you, very much like it is in their highest good to receive whatever it is that you have to offer to them: time, energy, effort, attention, emotions, all of it. They just want to drink it all up. You fill them, you nurture them, you saturate their soul with all kinds of good vibrations, something that it feels like changes the way in which they have felt that they almost like they belong to you, like they've never felt that they belong to someone. They may have just felt kind of tolerated in relationships, or they've discovered or created compatibility with other people, but there's a sense of belonging when it comes to sort of the two of you, or the way that they feel inside. The mention of your name, catching a glimpse of you, interacting with you, it brings something to life inside of them that feels like home. It feels right to be with you and to be in your presence. They also say, I don't want anyone but you. So it feels like they have made a decision within themselves to take steps towards you. That may even just be surrendering to let you in even closer. There's a peace with this. There's a stillness with this. There's a certainty with this. Almost like we don't need to rush. We have all the time in the world. The stars have aligned, and we are connected with one another. They've transcended some degree of doubt inside. They've felt or had some kind of spiritual experience that has lifted them up beyond the place of kind of looking at this or feeling into this situation as something that's purely just kind of a material circumstance, or like, here's somebody that I've caught feelings for, or have affection for, I'm attracted to, or even that I love. It's almost like their soul feels that place of belonging with you, and it goes beyond just sort of satiating kind of their human needs and desires. Again, it kind of ties into that idea of like some sort of purpose you're both meant to kind of fulfill together, or to sort of help one another fulfill very individually. That it's like nobody has felt right, nobody has kind of possessed within them sort of the key that unlocks this kind of door of understanding within them. You feel like the most familiar thing that they have ever known, and yet an adventure. You're the best thing that ever happened to them, and so it feels that they are in a space of kind of reverence as far as this connection is concerned, and very much kind of filled with gratitude that you've crossed paths with one another and aligned with one another. And if there's any kind of challenges that exist between the two of you, like in a material sense, there's a deep degree of commitment to doing whatever they need to do in the most expedient fashion that's possible, in order to kind of close out other situations or move beyond those obstacles or those circumstances, in order to be able to offer themselves to you fully and to receive what it is that you have to offer fully as well. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got R, C, R, L, V, X, T, I, O, N, W, M, Q, S, F, Y, V, and A. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.